In a remote valley, surrounded by thick trees and steep rocks, there lived a man named Lester. His cabin stood far from all roads. No mail ever reached him. No visitor ever knocked. Locals had stories about his family, stories too strange to be true. They whispered about children without names, about faces too similar to be coincidence, and about voices crying in the dark. The sky above that land always seemed gray. The birds never flew too close. The wind there felt cold even in summer. Lester did not go to town often. When he did, he wore a thick coat and walked with his head low. Shopkeepers spoke little to him. They just handed him supplies and looked away. Everyone knew something was wrong, but no one dared to ask. Lester had a wife. Her name was May. She spoke less than him, smiled never, and always kept her hands hidden inside torn gloves. Some said her hands had 6 fingers. Others believed she had none. She came from the same bloodline as Lester. That was no secret. Their marriage was not one of love. It was one of custom, of tradition, of rules passed down through a family that feared the outside world. Inside that cabin lived more than just Lester and May. There were children, many of them. Some tall, some small, some with twisted limbs, others with wide, staring eyes. None of them had gone to school. None had seen a doctor. Their names were not written anywhere. They existed only in the shadows of that cabin, raised by silence and fed by secrecy. The children never came outside during daylight. At night, though, candles flickered behind the wooden windows. Strange songs floated into the trees. Sometimes a scream would rise, sharp and sudden, then fade just as fast. Hunters passing through claimed they saw figures crawling instead of walking, hands touching the dirt, heads moving in circles. In town, an old woman named Ruth remembered the family's beginning. She said Lester's great-grandfather had started it. He had married his own cousin, saying it kept the blood clean. But each generation after grew stranger. By the time Lester was born, the family tree looked like a circle. The roots had wrapped around themselves. Outsiders had tried to help once. A preacher came, holding a book and wearing a white collar. He knocked on the door. He was never seen again. His car stayed by the road for weeks before someone finally towed it away. Another time, a young doctor came. She had heard rumors and wanted to bring medicine. She returned to town pale and silent. She left her job and moved far away. No one ever spoke to her again. The family had a rule. No one in, no one out. Blood must stay inside. May had once tried to run. She had reached the road, barefoot and crying. A truck driver picked her up. She begged for help, whispered that her children were not normal. But Lester found her before the truck left town. The driver never returned. Some said Lester offered him money. Others believed darker things. People learned not to get involved. The woods around the cabin grew thicker. The path disappeared. And the hollow, as locals called it, was marked only by fear. One winter, a reporter arrived. He had read about strange families, hidden communities. He wanted truth. He left his camera behind but never came back. His last note spoke of shadows moving under the floor, of a girl with no tongue, and of a man who spoke in a language no one knew. His words ended mid-sentence. His body was never found. Inside the cabin, the children grew. They learned not from books, but from whispers. They played with bones, not toys. They drew with ash on wood, not crayons on paper. The walls held scratches. The floorboards were loose. Beneath them, some believed, was another space, deeper, darker. A place where the first family members were buried, or maybe still lived. One girl, the oldest, was called Lila. She had eyes that never blinked. She spoke in riddles. She once told May that the cabin was alive, that it breathed when no one listened. Lila was not like the others. She seemed to know things before they happened. One night, she told her siblings that a storm would come. The sky was clear, but hours later, thunder shook the hills. The trees bent. The river rose. After the storm, 3 trees near the cabin had fallen. Their roots looked like fingers, reaching up. Lila smiled. May grew afraid of her own daughter. She told Lester that Lila should be sent away, but there was nowhere to send her. No birth certificate, no records, no relatives. They kept her inside, chained not with metal, but with rules. Yet Lila waited. She counted days without speaking. One day she was gone. The door was locked, the windows sealed, but she had vanished. On the wall, drawn in red, was a symbol. No one knew what it meant. After that, the other children changed. They stopped moving. They sat in corners, still as stones. Lester called a name that no one recognized. He screamed it for hours, then silence. That night, fire rose from the cabin. Flames climbed higher. Then trees. Smoke turned the sky black. No one called the fire department. By morning, nothing remained. Just ash and footprints. Too many for the number who lived there. Some large, some tiny, some with claws. The town never rebuilt that road. The hollow was forgotten again. Only Ruth remained, her voice trembling as she told the story. She said evil does not die. It waits. It sleeps. Then it wakes again. Years passed. Hikers sometimes reported strange cries. Dogs refused to go near that land. And in winter, fog covered the valley in thick, choking waves. One man claimed he saw a girl with wide eyes and no shoes. He followed her prints until they vanished near a burnt tree. He never returned. The hollow was marked as private land. Signs warned trespassers. But signs do not stop those who seek truth. A new group arrived. Investigators, thrill seekers, or maybe just curious souls. They brought cameras, lights, gear. They laughed. But when they entered the woods, their laughter stopped. The trees closed behind them. The wind whispered names. And deep in the fog, something moved. They found a doll made of bone. They found a song carved into bark. They found themselves walking in circles. Time lost meaning. One by one, they vanished. Their cameras recorded nothing but static. Their lights flickered, then failed. The last video showed a shadow, standing still while everything else moved. A shadow with eyes. Red, glowing eyes. After that, no one dared to enter again. The land was fenced. The maps removed its mark. But some say, on certain nights, if you stand by the old road and listen, you can hear a voice. It says one name, Lila, then silence, until something breathes behind you. And that, my friend, is the truth behind the most feared family ever hidden. In plain sight, their bloodline was their curse. Their silence was their shield. But stories cannot stay buried forever. They rise like smoke, like screams, like children born in darkness. If you liked the story, do not forget to follow. Many more secrets wait to be uncovered. Many more tales buried deep under dust and fear. And trust me, the next one is even darker.